All right, so today we're going to be going over telepresence robots and virtual field trips. Let's see. So our learning objectives today are to gain a new understanding of teleconferencing robots, learn about the benefits of using them and how to connect with them, understand the challenges and limitations of them, explore use cases in the pediatric hospitalized setting, and to see examples of programmatic implementation that we've done here at Texas Children's. Again, my name is Marty. I'm the Gaming Activity Coordinator here at Texas Children's, and I'm joined by Marley Stark, not Marty Stark, who is our Child Life Program Coordinator.
We're often confused by Marty and Marley, yes. So it's fine.
Yeah. All right, so Telepresence Robots, just a brief overview of them. They help you connect beyond physical limitations. If you're not familiar with them, they are, like our friend here, Scooter, they are a robot that allows you to connect somebody with somebody else from basically anywhere as long as you have a internet connection. So some of the different areas that you could use them in are healthcare, education, industrial work, senior care, and telework, so working from home. The benefits of connection and companionship are that it aids in personal health, offers peace of mind, and gives a sense of purpose. Some of the different basic human needs that we have are to establish a sense of belonging and to have companionship, whether that's with a friend, a relative, a caregiver, your pets, anything. And that helps keep your mind active, which is obviously very important for patients when they're in hospitals, especially for longer stays. So having somebody to engage with, be it remotely or in person, can help encourage optimistic thoughts and improve mental health. And there's also data that shows that can increase lifespan and lower your blood pressure. Actually. It offers peace of mind by allowing you to connect with others, such as your loved ones or other patients going through similar diagnoses. So you can bring different patients together via the robots, and they could actually have conversations with each other from the safety and privacy of their own rooms. If they're on contact precautions or depending on your COVID guidelines at the time, they might not be able to meet in person, but this would allow them to meet remotely. It also gives a sense of purpose. Connection can encourage and enhance a healthy spark to give yourself purpose. Camera's on our end. I'll turn it off and on again. Don't know if I can share both.
I see them. Okay.
You see us?
Yeah,
okay, cool. Now. I just had to turn off and on again. Classic. Back to giving a sense of purpose. You can connect and encourage and give that spark to somebody, which can help promote physical health, better mental health, and create new routines. Some of the challenges and considerations to think of when you are planning to implement robots in the hospital are hospital Wi-Fi and interference, connection methods, staffing, and privacy and safety. For Wi-Fi and interference, your hospital may have different Wi-Fi strengths. Wi-Fi areas might be better in one area or another. Different hospital equipment can cause interference. So those are all different things that you want to be mindful of. Just how fast your speed is can also impact it. What I usually do if we have like a new program or a new event that we're going to use the robots for, I usually try like the day before or so to go and canvass that area. So do a lap around and make sure the connection is solid and that it doesn't drop the call or anything like that, because it just depends on where your Wi-Fi hotspots are placed. Let's see. Some other ways to test are we use Omnilabs robots, which were donated by Teammates for Kids. And with Omnilabs, they have a test app that you can do. You just load up the web page and it'll test your speeds and some of the different networking components to make sure that all the connections will work well. And if they don't, there's different guidelines that you can use, and Omnilabs can help to take that to your IS or IT to kind of work through those issues to see if there's a way to make it work. And another way that we found that works really well is if you have access to a hotspot device or like your cell phone, you can use that as a bridge to connect your robot. Some different connection methods. Omnilabs, again, this is the one we use, is built on the web. So you don't need a specific device or app or anything like that, as long as you can pull up a web page and it meets basic current networking standards, then it should connect. So you can also use different various input methods. So if you have a mobile device like your phone or a tablet, you can use the touchscreen buttons. If you're using on a keyboard or a computer, you can use keyboard, controller. The adaptive controller also works with it as well. So any mean or mode that you have to connect and interact with the device will work. Next challenge and consideration is staffing. What we have found is similar to our animal-assisted therapists. We have a robot handler, basically. So we'll have somebody with the robot to guide the robot, just to make sure if there's any drops in call or anything like that, and the robot starts to veer off, or if a patient isn't as familiar with driving, then somebody will be there to help out with that. We've also found that having somebody with the patient also helps for engagement and troubleshooting. And you can, if you're running it solo, you could set it up with them ahead of time. I've done this in the past for different events, mostly with patients that have used it multiple times and I know that they're comfortable with it. I have set them up with a tablet, got it all set to the web page, and just told them to press the connection button in like 10 minutes when I get down to the event. So that is an option you could do. That way I was down there with the robot being the handler. So if anything went wrong on that side, I could keep everybody safe that way. Last note on this slide is privacy and safety. Obviously, since we're using video and patients will be involved, HIPAA is a concern. Omnilabs connections are HIPAA compliant, but always check with your regulators and everything to make sure that it passes all of their tests. Environmental concerns, just always check the areas that you're going to be driving in. If it's going to be the hospital, then obviously it should be pretty standard flooring, carpet maybe, with mostly tile and stuff like that. So it should work on that. Anywhere where there is like a door frame or anything like that, or if you're going to try and drive it on the elevator, wherever there's a connection in two different surfaces, there might be some bumps and stuff like that, which is important to consider because there is a camera mounted on there and that'll jostle it if it goes over rough terrain, and would not be the best if you're trying to watch through that. Tipping can also be a concern with anything that you are driving around. I know Omnilabs, and I think most of the other ones that have different devices like this, I obviously have that in mind. They don't want these to be unsafe things driving around in hospitals or different locations. But always just have somebody around nearby. That's why I always just have a robot handler. Last thing that some people don't always think about is considerations for the robot safety. Omnilabs, their robots kind of look like Segways, like the ones you drive around the city. There's like a little platform on the back, and I've had so many people say like, "Oh, is that a Segway? Can I like hop on?" And no, that's all plastic and it'll break. Some people also like try and mess with it and stuff like that. Most people are just curious and want to interact and engage and everything like that. But it is made out of plastic and stuff like that. Omnilabs 3D prints all of their parts, so obviously they're replaceable, but that'll take time and repairs and everything like that. Next, we're going to move to use cases. So some of the different use cases for the robots, and some of these are ones that we've used here. Some of them are different ones that like Omnilabs promotes on their website. Some of those are protect healthcare workers, connect family with patients, bring patients to events, bring special guest visitors to patients, other, which I'll go over in a bit, and then field trips. For protecting healthcare workers, during early COVID, one thing we explored was using them for patient engagements in the rooms for like hospital care or like doctors to be able to go in the room, or any bedside staff, so that way they could go in without having to gown up and use PPE, which this can also help reduce PPE. So we didn't actually go with it. Our areas found different ways to connect, but I know Omnilabs on their website promotes it as a possible use case. The next one is connect families with patients. Families can remotely connect to the robots if you allow them. You can send them a link. It can be like time gated, and there's different privacy concerns that way that you can keep everybody safe, that they can connect, and then they can visit their loved ones here in the hospital. This can also be a plus for if your families have geographical or travel limitations. I know here at Texas Children's, we get families from all over the world, so they might not be able to come and visit. Obviously, COVID's kind of limited visitors and everything like that, but that's another consideration, is that if they have family that's further away, they can still come and visit via the robot. Bringing patients to events. We host a lot of events throughout our hospital in areas such as our zone and different playrooms. So bringing patients to these events if they can't make it out to the room, be it contact precautions or physical limitations or any other means that would keep them in their room or away from an event. Some of the events that we've run that I've used successfully for are Easter egg hunt, our Halloween events. We have our animal assisted therapist birthday dogs, or dogs' birthdays. We usually host them in the zone. We have a big party, and so we can bring patients up to those, because those are always a fun event. Everybody loves the dogs. Different holiday events and summer camps are a great example of it. Also, if you have special guests that visit, like in your studio space or in your zone or something like that, we had Dude Perfect, a popular YouTube group, visit, I think the summer before COVID, when they were doing a giant tour, and we were able to bring patients up to the event that way, in addition to being able to watch online. But they were also featured in Dude Perfect made a documentary, and you could actually see the robots in the video, so that's pretty cool. During these events, or anytime you're using these, one thing to think about is how will the patients engage with it. One of the use cases we've used it for was summer camp. Obviously, summer camp, there's a lot of hands-on activities and different things like that. But what I found is patients and other staff and volunteers and everything like that really get curious and do want to engage with the robot and whoever is on the other end of it. An example of this was one of the events that they had in the zone for our summer camp, the summer before COVID, was archery. And obviously, being a robot, there's not, we have these 3D printed shoulders, but the person on the other end can't shoot a bow and arrow. But what we're able to find is that the patients that were in the room kind of just naturally engaged the patient, and they worked it out that the patient in the room would like hold it and the person on the robot would guide them. So it was a great way for them to just connect. And like I said, they were still engaged in the activity and were able to have fun. During that summer camp, there was also a robotics area, and patients that were in the area were able to take a robot and drive it around. I think they had like obstacle courses and different things to like knock over. And being that this is a robot, then me and the volunteers just had them drive through the obstacle course with the robot. On the Omnilabs robots, there's a camera on the front and a camera right here, like on the neck, that faces down, so you can see like the feet of the robot. So the patient that was driving was able to see where they were going, see the obstacles, and have fun that way. Bringing special guests and visitors to patients. Some of you may have connections with different sports teams in your areas. I know we do, and we'd always have Houston Texans come and visit the players or the patients. And sometimes we do big events in the zone or out on our playground, or sometimes they go around the unit. And obviously right now, due to COVID, we can't have those special guests here in the hospital. So what we've been able to do is bring them in via the robot. So we just send them a link, they're able to connect, and then they're able to drive it around to the patients. Some other opportunities we've had for that was with astronauts. So we had a connection with NASA, who's right down the street from us, where we had an opportunity to connect with the ISS, the space station. And for that one, we did troubleshoot it, and the tech specs that they use online for Omnilabs didn't meet NASA's specs and everything like that. So we ended up going with using Teams and a tablet, and that was okay as per NASA. But just different examples of how you can use the robots and kind of fill that gap. Some other use cases that I've done that I think are important to note, or some other ones that I'm going to spotlight that I've seen some of you guys do, or that have been hosted or posted on the Omnilabs email, are some of the miscellaneous ones I've done is one of the patients that I had who was here for a while, and he used the robot, I think, the most out of anybody that I've ever seen. One example that he did was he was on our bone marrow transplant unit, so he couldn't leave the unit. And during the holiday season, he was feeling really down. So I was working with the child life specialist at the time, and we tried to explore what are the things that he was missing from the holidays. And one of those was seeing the lights, driving around with his family and seeing the lights. And outside down on our area between our 5 or more buildings around here, we always have lights. And so I was able to bring the robot down one night, and he was able to drive around and see the lights. Another more interesting example that he used it for was his birthday came up one year, and he had friends and family visit, and the whole unit, they become quite close. And so everybody bought food and had different things like that going on. But due to medication or what was going on with him at the time, the smells were just overwhelming him. And so he wasn't on contact. There wasn't any reason he couldn't leave his room, except that the smells were making him nauseous. So he actually stayed in his room and drove the robot around to visit and connect with all of his friends and family. So that was another great example that he was able to use it for. Some different spotlights. Again, these are maybe some that you guys have done or that I've seen in the OmniLabs email. Somebody drove theirs to a patient's graduation. Another one is Gilded Edge, which is a marketing company that works with the soccer teams, is running promotions to have patients go out and walk out on the field or drive out on the field with the robot. I know we've run it a little bit, and I've seen tons of other hospital use for using it for CCTV. Maybe have visitors come on the show, be it patients or special guests or something like that that might not be able to make it into the studio. You can bring them in with the robot. The last one that I'll touch on too is for learning opportunities. There's a lot of you can build parts for it, and there's a lot of robotics involved. So there's a lot of STEM opportunities that you can utilize the robots for. And then the last one, and my segue into Marley's section, is field trips. So you can use the robots to bring patients anywhere. So why not bring them on a field trip?
Do you want to lower the camera a little bit?
Yes, let me lower it.
Actually, I guess we won't be able to see how we look.
Yeah.
You might only be able to see my forehead, so I apologize. Okay, Roaming Robots is pretty new, I think within like the year. We developed it kind of with COVID and stuff, but since then have realized that it can be used outside of COVID too. And it was kind of developed to better utilize our robots. At first we were, besides all the things that Marty mentioned, we were struggling to kind of see what they could do outside of just connecting with friends and family and such. So that's kind of where this came in. Let me switch. So these robots obviously can be controlled by the patient, which allows for a completely different experience for our patients who stay here long term, which is kind of who we've geared this program towards. It kind of allows them to just escape the hospital room a little bit. Although they're still in their room, they get to kind of connect with somebody and the public, honestly, outside of the hospital. Let's see. I wanted to show you guys. This is Scooter also. In that picture is Scooter, and this is Scooter behind me. We've named all of the robots. This is Scooter. We've got Otto and Axel, and they've got kind of personalities. And kind of when we introduce the robots to the patients, this is sort of our way to make it a little more like fun, not so weird. The patients seem to really respond to the robots being dressed cute and have a name. That way they don't look like a robot sometimes. And let's go next. So this is our first partner that we've done the Roaming Robots program with. It's the Houston Museum of Natural Science. We've also looked into doing partnerships with the zoo and NASA and other things, but the museum has just been something that has worked so well because they have like a very robust and dynamic exhibits and basically can cater to all ages and all interests for our patients. So it has been incredible, and they have volunteers that can take our patients around and kind of act as a tour guide. We connect them with a Bluetooth headset so that they can one-on-one chat with the patient and guide them around the museum and ask questions, keep them engaged. And then that's our friend Bradley. He's the one in all these pictures. He got the marketing campaign for this. That's him again. So to end the experience of roaming robots for each patient, the museum collaborated with us to give a donation of like souvenirs and merch for each patient. We tried to kind of like personalize it based on the patient's interests. So Bradley was super interested in dinosaurs, so he got t-shirts and stuffed animals and books and all kinds of fun things to kind of make him feel, you know, it's a little bit more of like a tangible item for the experience rather than just being virtual. So we go visit the patient after the experience and kind of give it to them, ask them how it was, and kind of get their feedback on it. And it's always so special to give them that like museum bag, like you were virtual and in your room, but like here's your stuff from the museum. It's just really cool. It's awesome. And then next we have a little highlight video, which is also Bradley. Was a trooper. There it goes. Okay. Now we'll work on questions from you guys.
Yeah, I saw a couple come in already, so let me scroll up to them. So one of the questions that came in from Lynn was, can multiple patients connect to one robot? That's a tricky question. Yes, but I believe, at least for Omnilabs, you have to partner with them and get their enterprise package, which enables some extra features. But defaultly, it's just you connecting on the web. You could try and do like a screen share. You could do it that way, or you could host it like on your CCTV if you can screen share your like computer to it. But natively, you can't have like more than one person connect at the same time. Let me see. That's the only question I see. Jordan did mention that they have different personalities, and yes, they do have different personalities. If you check our, in the top right is our ZTV's Twitter feed. If you check that and scroll through, you see some more pictures and videos and everything like that. And one of those, I think, is with the two of us and all three of the robots dressed up in their kind of their attire and their persona.
Yes, we have a cowboy, a rock and roll star, and
Axel,
I think Scooter is basically Katy Perry with blue hair and a pink skirt.
Yeah. So the links beneath our names are for our email addresses. If you have any questions, again, she's Marley Stark, not Marty Stark. That was me copying and pasting. I also listed Omnilab's website. They're the ones that our robots are from. And I also listed Teammates for Kids, who's a charity partner who help build our zone and provide us with tons of great gifts and different things like that, different opportunities such as the robots. And then, of course, the Houston Museum of Natural Science. I listed their Twitter because they have some more pictures that they took as well. And I think they're a great group. Yeah. Let's see. Do you have issues with Wi-Fi? Yes. That's kind of why we moved to trying to use the hotspot as much as we can. We usually honestly just like place it inside the bottom case or like attach it there. And that helps alleviate it. I really want to get a 5G hotspot.
Yeah.
Omnilabs worked with Samsung, I think, for a big promotion to unroll 5G in Shanghai, maybe. They have a video of it on their website. But I think that'll really take it to the next level, especially when you're out in different locations that you might not be 100% sure on the Wi-Fi coverage and everything like that. The Houston Museum of Natural Science allows us to connect to their Wi-Fi connection, and that works out pretty well on their side. So that kind of alleviates that. But it definitely comes up. Again, I think I mentioned on one of the earlier slides that whenever I'm going to a different area of the hospital or anything like that, I always canvass the area, because with any different technology and stuff like that, there can be different interference. So like on our epilepsy monitoring unit, there's lots of different technology involved with all that monitoring. And so the connection on that unit's really not good ever.
Yeah.
So, and there's not really much we can do on it. It's just connecting to the Wi-Fi hotspots in the ceiling. So
Yeah,
that flow
I
just
will
doesn't
say
work.
too, at the museum, no matter how many times we like trial ran the robot at the museum, like there's something that goes wrong about every time with the patient.
Yeah.
And each time we go in between floors at the museum in the elevator, we always like tell the patient we're gonna disconnect and then reconnect, because you can't stay on in the elevator. So
Yeah.
we've tried to like, you know, work out the kinks of the Wi-Fi thing, but inevitably it's just something that happens and we just, you know, figure it out on hand. But
Yeah.
it's never been so bad that we can't, you know, complete a session.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a matter of like hanging up and calling again, like you do with any other
Which
online
is why
call.
it's so important for us to have a handler and
Yeah.
someone with the patient to like get the reconnection started.
Yeah, like I said, the one patient that I did like the Easter egg hunt and holiday stuff and his birthday and stuff like that, he drove it 5, 10, 15 times or something like that. So
he knew how to reconnect.
Yeah, he knew how to reconnect. Like we had talked through different issues and stuff like that. So I was comfortable with him having a tablet, and then he would just reconnect the call and stuff like that. And I would usually we use Volts here for our phone systems. So I'd usually at least give his nurse my Volt number, so that way if he did have a problem that he couldn't resolve, then the nurse could call me. So that's something else you could do if you're running it solo. But like I said, we both recommend having handler and somebody bedside with the patient, which again, that also helps with like engagement and stuff like that. Sometimes, you know, patients will be shy, and it can be super awkward if the person on the other end is trying to engage with them and they're kind of just like with the iPad, or if the iPad is looking at like the ceiling or something like that. It can be difficult for the person on the other end. An example of that was I had a patient who was super excited the Texans came to visit, and they were down on our playground, and the patient wasn't able to go down, so we did it through the robot. And she was just so shy and so scared the whole time. But we had a CCLS that was with her and helped her engage and stuff like that. So at the beginning, it was a little rocky, but then they were able to help her, because it could be different and kind of scary, because you're connecting through the camera. Everybody else is like running around doing their thing. So kind of you have to help them like speak up and advocate for themselves. Like, hey, I want to do the thing, or I want to talk to the person and stuff like that. So definitely have two people.
Yeah.
Let's see. Personalities, I think that was mostly just us being fun and
we
the
were
pictures
just being
and stuff
silly.
like that. Yeah. Formal training for CCLS and other staff. Yes, I do have that, and I have run that for different staff, so that way they can use it at their will. Again, want to have somebody on each side, but my hope or goal for that training was to have them more comfortable with the robots, so that way they could either run it when I'm not here, or maybe they're with the patient and can better help engage and stuff like that while I'm with the robot. I did have, I think it was a cancer center like youth group that met on the weekend, and so some of the specialists did use it on the weekend, and I think they had good success, so that was good. Let's see, when you send your robots on field trips, does a staff member go with them? That's a very good question. So currently, yes, we are looking, the future for roaming robots is to engage with volunteers once we can re-engage with our volunteers, so that way they can be the person on the other end being the robot handler.
We're hoping to make it an entirely new like volunteer placement, to have like a volunteer that's comfortable with technology and obviously going off campus to escort the robot and whatnot. And we plan to talk with the museum to kind of maybe house one of the robots at the museum, so that way the volunteer can just show up at the museum, pick up the robot, and then get going. But we're in the works on that.
Yeah. Let's see.
Other than that, I go every time, and it's great.
Do you ever have family members connect from their home remotely to visit family members in hospital? We haven't used it in that mode yet, but that is one of the most common ones. I think that was actually like one of the initial ones for Omnilabs. I think their initial rollout for it was in like elder care, because a lot of times the family spreads out and stuff like that, so they might not be where grandma and grandpa are. And so I think that was their first iteration of using the robots was in those situations. But you can also do it in your pediatric location as well. We just haven't done that as of yet.
Yeah.
Um,
And to more on that too, it's pretty simple to get people connected on the other end of the robot. It's kind of like Zoom where you just send like a meeting link.
yeah,
and
that was the second part of their
like
question.
the people, they can just click the link and get on. So it's pretty user friendly, I found.
Yeah, and the links you can set them. As a base user, there's some different settings you have, and then there's more advanced settings if you go with the enterprise package. But I think defaultly you can like set that the link is only open like between this day and this time. You can also set that it'll expire or that it'll just be open forever. So you have some different options as well, at least with the Omni Labs platform, as to how you run that. Like I said, I know there are other teleconferencing robot programs out there. Omnilab is just the one that we use and that we're familiar with. Let's see. How do you troubleshoot disconnections when you don't have someone controlling and connecting at the other end? A lot of running, honestly.
Yeah.
Just run back up the elevator, and that's about it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is again why we kind of advocate as we've rolled it out and made it more of a program that you need two people on it, one with the robot and one with the patient to help with all of the other things we've mentioned as well.
Yeah, Marty and I just stay basically on call. Like the entire time we're in a session, we're basically just like calling each other and trying to figure out whatever's happening.
And sometimes it's a matter of like guiding or like gauging how the patient's feeling or interacting. There's been times where again, you can only see what the patient is emoting or what they're showing via the screen, but the person in the room with them can kind of get a better feel for it. So there's been times where I think with Bradley, you weren't sure like if he was really engaged or excited or something like that, and I was able to kind of relay some messages that he was like super engaged and was excited about it. He just wasn't like emoting it on his face.
Yeah, right. And there's been other times where patients are like in the middle of a session, very tired and ready to get off, but they're not going to speak up and tell us that. So it's very helpful to have somebody in the room that can tell us like, hey, it's time for us to get off just because the patient's done.
Yeah.
That way we don't push them too far.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all of the questions that I've seen. If you have any more, throw them in. If not, Chris, it's all you.
All right, guys. That was awesome. Those Omnibots are so cool. We've used them in the Seacrest studios here at Children's Colorado during the pandemic when we couldn't have any kids at all. They came in, the robots came in representing the kids, of course, playing bingo, which is amazing. You guys did a great job. Thank you, Marty and Marley. So much appreciated.